The following episode is dedicated to the loved ones of Max Perenchio and Ryan Brady. This podcast was recorded on October 30th, 2020 to celebrate the release of their brand new album, Tropical Purgatory. And it was an excuse to get together and shoot the breeze with my friends Max and Ryan. But I didn't know that it'd be the last time that I'd ever see them again. Because on November 26th, 2020, it was announced that their lives had been taken in a fatal car crash. The news was absolutely devastating, and I still can't imagine what their families are going through. They were full of life. They gave everything they had to absolutely everything they did. And they were good, old school souls who were living their rock and roll dream. It was a pleasure to have known them, and they will be sorely missed by all the people whose lives were made better by them. Uncle Salsa, the Pelican boy, may you forever rock in the fifth dimension.
The three-dimensional world which you inhabit can be bent to your will only when you enter the fifth dimension.
Uncle Salsa and the Pelican boy, welcome to the MISCHO podcast in the fifth dimension. Nice to see you boys. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time.
Here we go. All right.
Here we go. Friday night in the fifth dimension. You guys are in LA. I'm in Montreal. The world's locked down. Is it not locked down? No one really knows. It depends what you watch. All I know is I'm doing my thing, and you guys seem to be doing your thing.
Hey, man, we're out here doing our thing. You know, I was back in the past a little bit, and I saw you speeding around. I was going to grab you and be like, whoa, what's going on? But you were zipping through. So I know you've been time traveling a lot these days.
Yeah, I've been time traveling. When you're moving around like that, you can't really slow down. So I hope you didn't take offense. I don't think you did.
Of course not. Not when you look that beautiful going that fast.
No, the last time I saw you, I was like, what's up, dude? And then you looked at me like I was insane. I'm like, oh, I'm talking to the one that hasn't even met me yet.
Yeah.
So no big deal.
Thank you for not fucking this timeline.
Exactly.
A lot of this good stuff. So I think what the MISCHO and the time travel vibe and Uncle Salsa and the Pelican boy and your yacht rock vibe, are these, can I assume, alter egos and personas that we all assume, that all live within us? Or is it a little closer to home for you guys and probably for me too?
I think it was like Keith Richards that said, he was like, you know, back in the early days, man. Back in the early days, you know, I was just kind of putting this thing on, you know, this kind of a pirate motif, man, you know. But, you know, by the end of the 70s, I was living it full time. And but I think that's kind of how it is, you know. You start with a little bit of at first it's kind of a little bit of a costume,
yeah.
But then the next thing you know, you're hanging out down by the docks. You're eating shrimp with all the tail still on it, with like all the arms. You're just eating them raw with the shell and everything, not cooking them. And then you're like, geez, it's like I become my father.
So it's like the machine wants more of what you give it. It only starts as a facade or this alter ego, but there's almost no choice but to just keep rolling, and it evolves into its own beast.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people take themselves very seriously. They're like, oh, I'm in a band. I'm going to write these very serious songs. Pay attention to my very serious thing. And when you're manifesting something out of nothing, why wouldn't you want to be eating shrimp heads or on the boat, you know, margaritas or whatever it is? Beautiful girls, maybe not that attractive girls, but just, you know, easy, fun, breezy, Southern California life, man.
I totally feel you, and I totally love that because you're very serious about your music, right? So because I just listened to it again tonight before the podcast, and I heard the rich textures of like deep, like harmonies, beautiful harmony texture, sax on like almost every song, shredding stuff, back and forth vocals. It's a beautiful sonic experience, and if you present it to the world in a very serious form, it's off-putting to me. I think it's off-putting to the general consciousness. So to take the piss out of yourself and have fun and create a fun persona, that why wouldn't you do that anyway, right? So I love it, and that's what I'm doing with my thing as well. And it's very nice to see you guys doing what you're doing. So
you figured it out exactly. You know, I just saw a couple of spins in. Yeah. I mean, we both love music, obviously, very specific kind of music. People have said it's like if the Beatles went to Margaritaville, you know, something along those lines. Both love harmonies, both love just long guitar solos. This guy can do them better than I can. But the saxophone, that's a guy Max found in Chicago.
Unbelievable.
Francois, shout out. But I think as a segue into just art at large, usually the people that you like the best, you can kind of hear their full personality in their music. And some people are really serious. You know, you ever meet those people? I've only met a couple in my life that are really, truly serious. And then I'm sure if I was to hang out with like Fiona Apple, probably a very serious person, probably wouldn't laugh at any of my jokes, would probably be forcibly removed from her house with a restraining order to follow extremely, extremely soon. But the point is, like Frank Zappa asked, does humor belong in music? And you know what? I think if you're a funny person, if you like a couple two-tree goofs, then I think your audience is going to want that in your music. You want your art to be pretty congruent with the person that you are. I think that's the way it was designed to be by our God.
I think it would be a catastrophe otherwise, because our vibration or our frequency that we emit from ourselves is going to be what our source code is, right? And if we're trying to create something that's not that, it comes off as fraudulent. It just comes off like, because, you know, often when we're growing up, we want to be something and we think we want to be this thing, but until we mature a little bit, do we realize what we really are? Right, and if you're light and fun and like to crack jokes and want to be very serious about stacking harmonies, guitar solos, and Francois, saxophones in Chicago, then that's what's going to come out. And when I listen to it, it's a lot of fun. And it's not just a lot of fun. It's amazing. The hooks are there. The energy is there. Like, it does not sound like you were trying to sound like you're having fun. So what was a typical recording night?
It was just fun. Just having fun. It's like almost like can you get the other guy to laugh from a line you're writing or performing? When we did all that rhythm section tracking stuff, we did a lot of that live. Did that at a place called King Size Studios, and
an amazing place.
I could be playing guitar, I'd be playing bass, and maybe you end up overdubbing the parts later, but you're trying to capture the magic of the live performance. That's where it's at. So everything's in the computer. They draw the things in. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but to really mimic the live sound, I think that's what you're talking about. The energy. Every time I put it on, I almost listen to the whole thing straight through. A lot of other people have said that too.
There's a wild energy that comes from it. Like, it's a lot of fun. There's a wild energy. And yeah, I guess I didn't pinpoint that, but it sounds like it was recorded live. It has that live, wild energy. And that's something that is not, you don't really hear that all the time.
I wanted to shout out, though, our great drummer, because you mentioned it, Dr. Weed, who has now changed his name.
The moniker has changed.
Now the Key Lime Guy.
The Key Lime Guy. Obviously a play on words on the key lime pie, but perfect to fit your needs in Uncle Salsa and the Pelican Boy and the yacht rock vibe. Was he eating a lot of key lime pies during this quarantine?
He has been, actually.
A lot.
So we've already been, I think we've recorded another 2 albums, basically, or at least started enough songs that you could, if they were done, it's a lot of material. And I just had this idea because we love Brian, we love the Beatles and Ringo. Like, you got to give Brian a song. So I cooked up a little thing, and then I was hitting him, like, give me some lyrical ideas. And it was like, one text was kind of funny, and then the second, they kept getting funnier, and the last one was Key Lime Guy. And so I put Max on a FaceTime, and they were like, "Oh, let's see if Brian's available. Let's see if the Key Lime, but Dr. Weed's available." And we wrote this song like that, and so we got that one in the vault. But that's where it came from. But But what he is doing is, something came out of him from that, and he ended up going and buying I was like, well, you should buy an acoustic guitar. Maybe you'll start writing songs. Cause sometimes I'm more of a keyboardist, but so sometimes when I'm on a guitar, I don't think about it. And he bought one, and he's written like 3 really good songs so far. He sends me video demos. I'm really proud of the guy, frankly.
Well, I miss him. Because I was jamming with him. He is the drummer of the the MISCHO experience, and we were jamming 2 to 3 times a week for a few months at a time, and we'd go to the Red Lion after, and talk about our childhoods, and drink beer.
I wish I could go to mine. That's a great place.
What's it like in your world, other than outside of the music or outside of the studio? What's the general vibe like in the streets? Is it doom and gloom?
I think it's pretty much it's more or less what I would do anyways. Like, I'll go to the park, go for a drive, go hit the beach, and there's I think it just depends on what you want. Like, I guess you can't go to the bars. That's really the biggest difference. I still go to restaurants.
You can go to a restaurant. You're outside. You're not inside anything anymore. You're not really going to the mall or you can't go to the office. Obviously, it's illegal for me to go to the office that I work at. You have to get an approval from the CEO of the company.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But you're wearing a mask. I'll go for a run in the morning. But yeah, I've been spending way too much time at home, but it's the volume of work has increased because everybody's on the computers all day. So I made that decision in the last couple of days to be like, all right, 7:00, I'm done. Maybe go down to the studio, or maybe not. Maybe just read a book, kind of have time for yourself. But yeah, it's not what the news is making it out to be.
Okay, that's good, because first of all, I don't know what's going on in the news because I don't watch it. I just watch Lord Joe Rogan. That's all I do.
I think you're going to say Lord of the Rings.
No, Lord Rogan.
Repeat.
I just have the entire trilogy just constantly going in my house.
And The Hobbit. It's how I find all my information. Oh, interesting.
Okay, so a segue back into your music. Was this, I guess, quarantine time, did it push you to release this stuff? Because last time we spoke, when I was in town, I know you guys were constantly working on it. Was there a planned release date, or did this spawn the release date?
This whole thing was, honestly, if we're trying to talk about it seriously, like, this was a sort of after hours fun thing to do. Brady works at a record label. I'm a producer, and we would get together after the day's work, and we would meet up at these recording studios in Los Angeles and just have a really great time. Would go really late, have a really good time. And so there was never even a thought of, oh, is this going to, like, when are we going to do it? When are we going to release it? Like, what's the marketing strategy for this? Like, we didn't even know what the name of it was because it was just for fun. And, the quarantine stuff happened, and then a lot of the world started burning, and then we had it mastered, and we were like, well, it doesn't really make sense to put out these feel-good songs about seafood. And then eventually we just said, actually, maybe it is. Maybe it's a great time to put out feel-good songs, mostly about seafood and nautical themes. And I think what it did was, when it came out, a lot of people that were just sort of sick of the day-to-day anxiety and hatred, they just realized that when you go to this little shrimp town, that you have a good time, and all of a sudden the person you want to be, you can be. And so I think that it was all a happy accident. And so everybody who came to the project so far is just really authentically liked it, because they said, one of the best compliments I heard was, it's not thirsty in any way.
Yeah,
and I said, that's good. I liked that, because I don't think it is thirsty. There's no trick. There's no, hey man, I'm really looking for a radio hook. Like, I don't know. I think we could turn this chorus up. I think we could jack it up. And of course, as a music producer, that's like how I have to think most of the time. But if you really stop giving a fuck, you can make some stuff that feels good. I think that kind of translates. So I was happy with that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people spend their lives, things are very serious. Got to get the job. Or I got to get into the school. I got to get the job. I got to get the promotion. I got to get the relationship. I got to get the car. I got to get the house. I got to get these things. You got to get these things, then you can't lose them. So it's very serious, and it's like the opposite of that. We're saying, who gives a shit about any of that stuff? Just have a good time. And there was a couple of years ago when that Andy Kaufman, Jim Carrey documentary came on, where he was talking about the thing that changed his career. And I'm not saying this is going to change our lives or our careers, but something went in the back of my head where when he realized that people just wanted to be free from concern. That's when he invented sort of that wacky stage persona he had. And that's when he took off and had the mask and Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber in 1 year. And, he changed his life forever. And so I don't know, that's just kind of how I've been living my life and how the project has come to be.
But it really comes through. And so, like we were saying, there was no planned release. It was just a good time, feel good time. And you figured that you could release a potential antidote, that you could throw into the consciousness, and that would, not thirsty, not looking for anything. It wasn't sugar coated in something and pretending it was something else. It was just fucking good vibes, and people need good vibes. That's it.
It sort of solidified a little theory too, that there's like an audience for everything. And oftentimes when you look at, let's just say, your social media feed, you kind of pick up on the daily zeitgeist. I know daily zeitgeist that's not how you should use the term, but the daily feel and
flavor,
the flavor. And then a lot of times we're conditioned as tribal beasts to say like, well, this is how everybody's thinking. This is how everyone's behaving. So I better, do a quick copy and paste of another thing that I saw and make sure that everyone knows that I'm thinking like that. And
virtue signaling,
right? All that kind of stuff. And especially when you're trying to market your own music, you're just like, well, I mean, I don't know. This is a very serious time. Do I need to kind of, is this the appropriate time? But I think I learned that when you do the opposite and you just put out something that has nothing to do with it, a lot of people that are attracted to it are the people who are just like so sick of everything. And they go, oh my God, I just really, really appreciated the fact that somebody was doing something that was, going against, or at least going away from what I thought was kind of my new existential experience.
Yeah, I like what I need to do. This is what I need to put out because everyone's doing that and I need to play my part. But that's fucked. I can't do it. Clearly you guys can't do it. And you put out this music that's authentic and then people get it. And it's in terms of the uncanny valley of marketing, when you, like Kanye, Kanye and everything he does, but that video where his shoulders are super wide?
Yeah.
That cuts through in the uncanny valley. So the uncanny valley is what pierces through the subconscious. So when everyone's posting the same bullshit over and over and over, all you have to do is literally be yourself, have a lot of fun, be flamboyant, and you're going to pierce through that consciousness, that balance of normal. But you're innately doing that by just being yourself, having a party, and throwing that party out in the world.
Well, and maybe this is a bit controversial to say. I'll see how Max reacts to it. Or, excuse me, the Pelican boy reacts to this. Everything's very safe right now. A man has to act a very specific way now. It's like an updated code. And it's, I don't know, what do you call him? A soy boy? Somebody is like very like almost apologizing for his true biological nature. I'm not talking about the toxic elements of being a man, but I don't know. We tried to capture some of that energy. There's some songs on that record that are for men, not because we're like, let's make a song for men. This is because no lady in their right mind would want to listen to that again and again, right? So when I think about you, baby, stuff like that. Like those are the feelings of a man.
Yeah, and you have to be 100% pure raw man sometimes. You got to let it out.
The David Lee Ross, the Sammy Hagars, the Pete Townsend, but maybe not Pete Townsend. He got into some trouble. But you know what I'm talking about? Like the macho stuff.
In terms of, putting out your project and seeing who's the demographic for this, what's my market potential with Uncle Salsa and the Pelican Boy. It's really like what I'm seeing in any great business or any great industry is that the power is in the niche. The more focused that you can be in what you do, the bigger your reach, the bigger your potential to strike a chord. Because if not, it's just like pissing in the ocean. And you're nothing. You're just competing with everyone who's doing the same fucking thing.
Yeah, the thirsty music is.
By thirsty, you mean like very contrived, trying to match some kind of top 40 formula or sound palette or kind of personality?
I call it music for managers.
Right.
It's like because usually as a producer, you're meeting with the artists, and pretty much every artist is down to clown basically on anything, and we love wild ideas. A real artist, that's how you really know a real artist, is when you show them a pretty wild side of them, and they want to chase it down, and they love it. They I can't believe I've never heard anything come out of my mouth like that. It's great. And then you leave a studio, you high five, woo, that was so fun, and then they show it to the manager, and the manager goes, I mean, I don't know if it's not going to like play on the radio. I mean, I don't think it's like accessible, Yeah. And it takes all the fun. It's like, oh, this is a song I really liked. And then, Captain just like, the manager man comes in, the guy with the suit comes in and tells you that you can't release it.
Captain Algorithm comes in.
Are we really going to get New Music Friday with this? Are we going to get a Pitchfork, blah, blah, blah? Maybe Pitchfork isn't your thing, or.
Yeah. And that's really just, I come from, in my previous life, I was in a business that sold essentially a commodity product. And the only differentiator was really the personality that we had, that my dad had, that my brother had. But the product itself was just a run-of-the-mill product. It was the same as everyone else's. If my competitor dropped the price by 5%, I would lose that business just because that's how it rolls. And that's how I see a parallel in thirsty music, as you call it, because it's not doing anything for the brand or the artist. It's really just filling a hole that no one's going to remember or give a fuck about in 1 week, or maybe even that day. And it's vanity metrics. It's upfront glory. Hey, we got these spins, we got this, that, but there's no compounded interest on the side of the artist, which is essentially what we're trying to do, right? You guys are artists, I'm an artist. And with every release, we want to compound. But if we're listening to these kinds of managers, and every release, we're not compounding interest, and we're just filling some hole for some manager, then it's not even law of diminishing returns. It's just a failed pursuit. So I feel bad for artists who are in that, right? Because we have to figure out how to build that compounding interest. And by you guys leaning into what you really are deep down in your souls, that is really the only way that you're going to get people to really like you and love you. Like, people are going to watch this. We're just starting this podcast. It's not going to be trillions just yet, but you're showcasing your sense of humor. And this is refreshing because everyone's used to being so fucking safe. Everyone's used to saying what they need to say. But I feel like the future for artists is quite independent in nature, because if you can just talk some serious shit like Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher, then you can just build your own audience by yourself. And then they will come to you. They will flock, motherfuckers. They will flock.
Yeah, the music industry is going through a little problem, like in that sort of cycle, I think, where people go, well, does this sound like, hold on, I need something that goes, burr, 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 I love it so much, I love it so much, and it's like, well, this is going to slap. And you guys feel free to take any of those little licks and sample them, because that was pure gold. That's what I was pure gold. In the next
10 years from when this posts, that'll be it. Somebody will take that.
But they want songs like that, and they and generally, because it makes sense, because they're spending money. If you're a record label, you're spending money on putting this product out. So of course they go, oh well, I need something that is going to, I want it to sound like something that's already made money. And they don't want to take the risk on something that would be a little bit more from the heart, that would find a more niche audience, like you said. And so then all of a sudden, when it's not performing, they go, well, I don't understand. Why is this not performing? Oh, because it sounds like, because there's no face to it. It's a mask. It's a mask to put on. But I always used the analogy back. I used to be in this other band back in the day where we would wear real crazy stuff. I wore like wings and like 7 foot or 7-inch like platform boots, and we painted our faces and stuff. And I was telling the band, just like my analogy was like a grocery store line that goes all the way back to the end of the grocery store, and everyone's waiting in it. Everyone's in their cool little flannel shirts with their cool Fender Mustangs and their really nice haircuts, and they're waiting to get to the register. But then all of a sudden, over on aisle 4, Paul Stanley from Kiss is behind the register. He turns on the light. People, who wants to come over to my aisle? How many people want to rock and roll tonight, people? And then it's like, and a lot of people are like, no, like, I'm not gonna do that. And then if you do it, if you give the people something that they'll remember, you get a little bit, you do the showmanship route, you at least do something that is going to set you apart from people. I see. Then when you fail, which you inevitably will because this business is impossible, when you fail, you at least fail doing what you like to do on your own terms.
Exactly. And I love that grocery store analogy because that's the one you gave me. Because we had some nice in-depth talks about branding and persona and all of these things. And that's what helped me lean into the fifth dimension time travel thing. You know, the logo, the suit, the whole aesthetic. It's like, if I'm going to give this a go, I'm not going to fight a whole bunch of other people who look cool in jean jackets, who look cooler than me. I'm going to create something that they're going to think looks so fucking stupid and ridiculous. And I don't care if I look like, you know, Jean-Luc Picard and rock and roll, because I love rock and roll and I love Jean-Luc Picard, and I don't see anyone else doing it. So that's my Paul Stanley cash register.
Photos of you now, I find you almost intimidating, like you're the commander of some fleet, of some military. And not intimidating in a negative way, like you're an authority figure. So I don't think it's stupid at all. It's really great.
Absolutely. But it takes a certain kind of courage. Because another thing that we've all discussed before is fearlessness, right? Like when we talk about Kanye or we talk about any other artist who even Cardi B, for example, fearless, says whatever the fuck she wants, just goes. And not everyone can be fearless, because fearless means that you have to travel a road that hasn't been really paved before, right? You're charting into uncharted territory. But what you're doing there is that you are creating your grocery aisle. You're creating your niche. And so you can do the cool guy route and, like, you know, sound like someone else, and you'll get some playlist thing, or you'll get some kind of, you'll be part of some scene, but you're not going to make any strides. And it takes balls at the end of the day to do that. And what you guys are doing takes balls, because you are doing something that sounds like nothing else. Nothing else that is, look, I don't listen to a lot of yacht rock, but I'm hearing a lot of 70s and 80s influences that sound amazing together, but with so much personality and back and forth and all this epic shit. And it's rock and roll. And like I said, when I listen to it, I feel drunk. And I think you guys are going to do way better than you even expect you will.
The other really good thing is when you set your expectations at 0, everything is just unbelievable. You know, like everything that you get back. Yeah, I was expecting nothing, so I'm really jacked up. But I really appreciate what you're saying, my man, about listening to it and getting drunk.
Okay.
I can
sound
drunk without the booze.
Have you talked about any of this on your show yet? Because we only saw one episode aired before, because we're doing a little, want to be caught up.
I always talk about AI stuff or like future prediction stuff.
I think about that kind of stuff all the time. Like 150 years from now, would you even be able to talk to somebody like in the same way? You ever watch old interviews with people from like the 20s, but they're like on this, maybe not 20s, but like 60s, like people so that's like our parents' generation. Like, just like there's a lot of interviews. It's just like regular people. It's not like it's not like Dick Cavett, like on the TV. It's just like people on the streets, and the way they talk and answer questions, it's a totally different thing. They talk from like a different place in their minds. I was watching this 80s, like it was like the mall rat generation, you know, like the Tiffany
the
and
Valley Girl,
the New Kids on the Block kind of era, and they were going around to the malls and interviewing people, and they're like, "Hey, like, what do you think about the mall?" And they're like, "I tell you what, we just think these malls are just great." You know, it's like, who would say that? You know what I mean? Oh, every day after school, me and my friends, we come to this mall, we just think it's the greatest. You know, we have fun. We show people our cool new clothes. And it's like, no kid would talk like that anymore. It's like, yeah, you know, like now they talk like they're already rappers. You know what I mean?
Because you're seeing it on your phone or your watch or your computer or we're on screens all the time. So you're getting all of these different communication styles and mixing them up. People are just in their own little tribes. Oh, hey, golly gee, it's good to see you again, Marianne. Go down to the TJ Maxx and pick up some slacks, that type of thing.
It's pretty funny. It's like Idiocracy. It's sort of like
it's
I had
exactly
that moment when I was watching Billie Eilish talk. I'm like, oh, she's kind of like no offense, she's a really good artist.
The first Idiocracy.
She's a great artist. Don't get me wrong, but like they're like so like show like tell us like your influences. You know, it's like super like dope. Like, you know, I don't really have like I'm not even doing a good job of what she does. But she was like talking like, yo, it's like insane, yo. Like it's just like I get these mad like inspirations, yo, and like shit's like dope, and I just like follow it.
We sound like boomers compared to Billie Eilish.
Well, we are compared.
We pretty much are boomers. But yeah, that's true. Like, do you think you could really communicate with your great-great-grandfather?
Well, yeah, I think there's body language and tone of voice go a long way, but maybe you couldn't understand what they're saying in some sense. My wife is British and I can barely understand her half the time. What did you say? You know, I think you can tell a person, a lot of communication is the intention of the creature, so you can get a vibe. But that's why now I sound like a boomer. Dope. Brett, does that make me sound like less of a boomer?
No, I actually think you sound like a boomer when you start saying that stuff.
Dope. Red.
You know, there's always
you date yourself.
some guy in every friend circle who talks like a little bit too much like the teenagers. Yo, man, that is so flame, dude. Oh, man. Like that is
lit, man.
Dude, it's
Holy
so lit.
shit.
And I think that's how you sound like a boomer. I think if you just talk like yourself. But no, that's a good point, Mischo. I got to say, that made me a little. My great grandfather would think I was a soy boy.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. Soft as fuck.
They had 5 kids by the time they were 18 years old, you know, out in the fields doing something or working somewhere in some factory.
Grandpa, it's called a CBD latte.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking badass, Grandpa.
It's true.
It's so Seth Rogen just released a movie about this.
Oh, I watched that. That was good.
I really liked it. What was it called?
American Pickle or something?
Yeah, an American Pickle. That was excellent. He gets pickled in a factory and he meets his big dream when he lived in where the hell did he live? Poland or something?
Oh, in I don't know. I think it might have even been a nondescript joke country. Okay,
well, whatever it was, his big dream was to drink seltzer water. Like he said, you know what? If I make it big one day, I want to have, fizzy water. That's what I want to have. And then he wakes up in 2020 and his great grandson has this machine in his spot. And then he ends up building an empire. Spoiler warning, but movie was awesome. And it displayed that. And they move fast, but not that fast, right? Because we have our entourage, we have the people we live with. It's like every generation has like a big gap, right? That big generation gap between parents and their kids is that gap exactly. Like our parents had that gap with our grandparents. Like it was always the same struggle. It's always that change. And there's genetic mutations apparently that happen to us every generation as well. Like there's a bunch of genes that alter. So there's like tiny little mutations that are happening with every iteration of us. So the new kids on the block are literally different. I always say that my younger brother had a software update, right? So he's wiser than I am, even though he's younger, because he has the new shit. And as look, soy boy or whatever the Billie Eilish generation may be, they have like these skills in them that are going to allow them to go forward in the world. Like we think like, how can they move forward? But they're going to prosper and invent crazy ass shit and have totally different attitudes than we did. Just like our parents, my dad always told me like, what the fuck can you really do? You can't do shit. And we all do it. The species keeps moving, gentlemen.
Everything gets a little bit better. And then also things like the good stuff from the past dies and it gets worse. It's like it's interesting.
But it only dies in our opinion.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think maybe like, so what do you think if idiocracy, because what you're describing, I've heard described as the naturalistic fallacy, which is basically no matter what happens in the future, it's inherently what's supposed to happen. Like it's inherently the good evolution versus trying to attach like some morality to it. Like some people would watch that movie Idiocracy and say that it's gotten worse, because we've lost, all knowledge of what art used to mean, and we lost like describing capacities. Like we lost eloquence to a level that like actually is irredeemable. Like, if you listen to the way people talked in like the 1860s, they're like, I bespoke to that man about my quandary. And they have this really like robust language. And then I think eventually you might lose so much of it that it almost becomes like primate days where you're just kind of grunting at each other. So I don't know. I guess what I'm asking is it possible for the future to actually be worse?
Who knows? I think as well, and that's only from our perspective, right? From our view, it's worse. But for someone born 200 years from now, we seem just weird and historic. And just like, I don't know, maybe people 200 years before us will see us in that same light. So as we see things evolving from our eyes, we can judge it and say, oh, this is getting worse. But that's only from our perspective, because it's that innate fear of change, and we're used to something and we grew up with something and we're seeing it transition. But to the people born in the future, they won't know the difference. To them, they're going to think they're Shakespeare, and they're going to think that their great grandkids are fucking morons.
What do you think, Uncle Salsa?
Controversial opinion. I don't think people matter as much as we think they do. And here's how I want to support it, because that might be a very shocking thing for someone to hear out of context. We have these drives as creatures to reproduce and to survive and all of these things. Sometimes I feel, and I was telling you this the other day, that humans are the flowers of our DNA. We're just these things that have been created in this world that advance the DNA's cause. Eating, keeping the body alive, keeping the cells alive to get the DNA to pass it along to mix with somebody else. Your bloodline may matter more than you. Now, that could be wrong, but it could explain a lot of those things. Things may seem like they're getting worse and getting better, but for humanity, are they getting better on the whole? Probably. But there are going to be things on the normalized curve in the, 3 sig or 4 sigma, all the way out there. You're going to have the ultra rich and like the ultra poor, but there's just going to be this big thing in the middle that keeps getting better and better. How do you guys feel about that? Maybe that's a crazy thing to say.
No, I like it.
I think about that every day. I think that humans are right in line with what you just said. We're just vessels carrying DNA to get it to push it further into the cosmos, right? So I see really humans as, and this is also controversial if you take it out of context, but we're like ants. Like, let's say you zoom out and you can see every day as 1,000 years. We're just the ants that built this grid that the next cyborg race, which will be a hybrid, will be able to function upon, right? And so we're building the grid, right? Right now, we are contributing by putting out music, by being on a Zoom call, by doing all this stuff. We are contributing to the strengthening of the grid. We are creating demand for more cable to be dispersed throughout the planet. So if you look at those thousands and thousands of years, this ant race called humans connected the grid, and everything we do, whether we scroll, watch porn, do Zoom calls, spend time in the studio, everything we do is literally increasing the grid. And as technology increases and we start to become cybernetic, we will just be the race that kind of set up the matrix for the next versions of us to go out into space. And we're just in our hamster wheels, watching our TVs, making sure that the power stays on so that they can send us out, or we can send them out.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because I forget, is it Moore's law that the power of computing doubles whatever every year or 18 months, whatever it is. Do you think, based upon Moore's law and the advancements about things have gone? Because I remember playing a Super Nintendo as a kid, Mario, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is in my house. This is better than what's at the arcade. And then the Nintendo 64 comes out. It's 64 bits instead of 32 or 18, whatever it is, 16. And you're like, 3D Mario, I'm in the castle. I'm swimming somehow. And then now you look at what people are doing. You had GoldenEye, you had Halo. Now people are living in these virtual worlds, building Minecraft, building Starship Enterprises that are to scale in a virtual world with other people connected on the planet. So I guess my question is, how do you feel about the simulation? Do you think that a simulation is inevitable, or it's already occurred, or it's a ridiculous thing?
I love thinking about it. First of all, I think there's no way that we can, or there's no way that I can tell. I'm definitely no scientist, but I like to think about stuff. I'm a bro scientist. So
podcasts are supposed to talk about stuff.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love talking about this stuff. So are we living in a simulation? I don't know, but I like to live like I am, because if it's a simulation, it tells me that anything's possible. And it tells me that I can create this reality, and it's user generated. I like to believe that I'm, like Kanye said, playing Grand Theft Auto, but the player has figured out that he's in Grand Theft Auto, and now he's realized that the rules don't really exist, and he can do whatever he wants. So I like to live my life like that. Just do whatever the fuck I want. Are video games eventually going to evolve into a simulation? I think 1,000,000%. If you look at where Pong was and where the new Spider-Man game is, for example, it's pretty crazy. And
about this game, I haven't seen that yet.
It just looks absolutely beautiful. And I think it's just the way it's going. And I guess with Moore's law, I figure, 20 years, we're going to have these worlds that we can just inhabit and never leave a chair, kind of like Idiocracy, where we shit in there and we get this chemical cocktail to balance us out.
So you're going to plug in and you're like, I want to watch the Beatles if they had all been alive in 1976. And then I want to fuck Rihanna. And you can do that. And you can just live it.
Yeah, I think that's for sure coming.
What's the consequences to humanity for that? Then we're the most self-destructive creatures on the planet then.
Well, I think, oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No. I'm just, I was going to say a bunch of ridiculous, I don't know where I was going, but yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, the 80% of the people are really just doing the bidding of the 20%, let's say. And so there's always going to be like smart people, Elon Musks of the world, and who are connecting themselves to things. And they're going to be making sure that all these people playing these virtual reality games and stuck in a simulation fucking Rihanna all day long, they're going to be contributing to some kind of output, or else there would be no net benefit to the species. Because as smart as Elon Musk or Zuckerberg may be, I think that on like a consciousness and subconscious, like genetic level, we're doing things that are going to propagate our genes, like you said. So I think if we're doing that, it'll serve the whole. It'll serve genetics. It'll serve terraforming other planets. So you fucking Rihanna in your weird lazy boy that has a shithole in it will actually be contributing. Like you will be contributing to furthering the genes from Earth across galaxies.
The Matrix, we're basically batteries then. We're basically these power cells that power this grid. Not in the same direct way as in the Matrix, but you doing that adds to society. So you're just, is it like Wall-E where I'm like a fat guy on one of those bed?
Sure.
What are they called?
Yeah, sure. Because I think everyone is contributing. Like we all, by watching porn was like 80% of the internet in the first 5 years of the internet. If it wasn't for porn, like PayPal or any of these cool internet companies wouldn't have happened. They would have been.
Well, it's fun. A lot of the advancements that I've seen in music, just speaking to my own experience, they've come from porn. A lot of them, whether it's video fidelity going up or these pay to play models, or they have this now. You watch a live show on Stage It or whatever it is, right? Whatever the platform is, and you can send these tips in. You're watching a guy or a woman or whoever, non-gender, whatever the hell you're supposed to say these days, perform, and you're like, oh, $500 just got sent. That's a strip club thing. That's a virtual strip club thing. So you can, that must have come from porn. So it's this, again, back to
what is porn?
Fair enough. Good
I've
question.
never even heard of this.
It's chess. It's chess that you play online, and you can watch people do it, and it's very exciting. And when they pull a move that you can pull yourself, you usually give a tip.
Interesting.
That's what it was.
I've heard that too, how it's really responsible for the advent of the internet. And just like how, they had the history of beer or whatever, and how like low-key beer was one of the things that grew so much of society and industry. Like oftentimes I think it's a beautiful concept that like the lowest qualities within us are the things that drive into like the next frontier, which is probably true for something like, if you do believe in a simulation, like it's certainly caused by this social media AI algorithm, like whatever. I always liked the idea if there was such thing as a simulation, which it's like talking about religion, but that it's something that has happened in the future, if that makes sense. Like that's like we're moving towards the simulation. Like this whole thing is sort of like this pull into this thing that already happened that started this whole thing, which sounds weird, but I actually can see how that would happen, especially when you get into something like you programmed an AI and actually had it reach that sort of God status to a point where it could assign data points to every molecule in the universe. You know what I mean? Which sounds insane, but it's like, okay, but
at some point it's inevitable, right?
Not in 1,000 years. Like it's not outside of my imagination to assume that one day an AI could be so powerful that it could assign a data point to every molecule. And then all of a sudden, once that happens, then that's one piece of software away from what we're living right now. So I can see that it's kind of a weird, dorky sci-fi way to look at the world. And I don't know how much good it ultimately does. It reminds me of thinking about free will. It's like, I think it's fine. It's almost like semantics at some point. And I'm not really sure how productive you can be by thinking about it. But, like free will, does that exist?
No way.
But like, isn't that the whole thing? Like we could never so like the stupid expository sentence that I'm in the middle of, I don't know when it's going to end. I don't really know where it's going, but anybody could argue that, it's based on the chemical drips and what I ate today and what I've said before. And really there's no, like, it's perfectly entirely predictable what I'm going to say next. Yeah. Like, it's like spilling a punch bowl on the ground and watching it trickle out. If you had everything measured, you would see exactly how it would trickle out and how every little micro fiber would absorb the punch. But I suppose that since it's such a large matrix of possibilities, it's like it's infinity, I suppose. Like we just call that free will. So yeah, we have free will because we don't really know how to explain this mysterious thing. So like, yeah, there's a simulation because we don't know how to explain why time could be circular, but maybe it's not. So it's just like, it ends up being like language concepts to me. It's still kind of fun to talk about.
Yeah, but you said that quite beautifully. And it really is quite unproductive for your daily life to talk about free will, because as far as we know, we choose what we do. Right? We do our best to feel good in the morning and be productive, and then we blow off some steam, and that is what it is. You zoom out and you see, okay, well, the human race will create this, and they'll eventually create the internet, and they'll eventually put data points on every star in the galaxy, whatever. Sure, that's inevitable, and we're all moving towards that. Right? Like we're all like molecules of water that are shooting down a hallway, and we're in there. But while we're in there, we don't know where it's going, right? It's just a vibe. It's got to ride the wave.
You try to balance it out too, like all the sort of, I don't know, what do you want to call this? Let's just say everything under the umbrella of the simulation or sort of, scientific. What's really the value of the human experience? I try to balance that with like everything that I think about, like dreams and the soul and like beautiful, wonderful coincidences that have happened in my life and like magic. You know, like, because I think that those things are very real too, especially like dreams and the subconsciousness, like the collective unconscious rather. You know, like I think that there's a lot of interesting magical stuff that's going on underneath that. Like that's all within the religious realm too. So I don't know. I look at that. I'm like, there's a lot there that we have no idea about, and so I think maybe there is. I think that instills. It's like the yin and the yang. That instills hope in me that maybe our lives really do have like capital M meaning, and that it is important. That like all of our actions are kind of measured and measurable somehow, and that maybe even there's some sort of kind of morality that exists based on if we are all connected, then maximum suffering for the most amount of people is objectively worse than maximum pleasure and creativity for the most amount of people. You know what I mean? Like you set up kind of this thing, and this organism does sort of have, that's like the nervous system. It's like if you want to get something done, your hand, like you're going to be able to do a lot more with your hands if you don't put them on a hot stove. So like, because you can say, well, a hot stove is just an experience, just like building a car. Who's to say that that's, any better or any worse? Maybe, we're learning a lot from putting our hands on the hot stove. But a part of me that looks at like the dreams and all that kind of stuff says, I don't know. I think when we work together, maybe something that even has to do with love, or like kind of more of we're vibrating on the same wavelength and growing, as opposed to being in a war with each other, shooting each other's brains out. A part of me thinks that maybe those things we can actually say are more objectively important to the human experience. You know what I mean?
I know absolutely what you mean, and I love that you brought that up, because that really brings a balance to the clinical side of the simulation, and we're pretty much automatons with no free will, and we're just drudging away. But the whole spiritual side of like magic and love and all these beautiful things, it's I think it's very important to be reminded of that, and how much hope that gave so many people for so many years. And anyone who outright denies it is claiming that science knows everything that there is to know of from all time, right? Like we're still a very primitive species. So our science has just been bookkeeping everything it's figured out how to explain up till today. And I think that magic or love or God or interconnectedness and the whole, let's say the old school, more religious view of things, I think as science evolves, I think these two will merge, and they'll start explaining each other. Like if we understand more about dreams, or we understand, because we claim coincidences, right? There's no such thing, or whatever that is, but who knows? Maybe in 10 years or 20 years or 50 years, we'll find out exactly what those things were. So, or ghosts or any of those things. So many people have seen them, UFOs, right? What if science, the further it goes, just starts to explain its stuff? And anyone who says that, science hasn't proven it, they are correct. They are correct, but it's like saying that someone who's 6 years old who goes to school knows everything there is to know. So we just have to keep in mind that we know nothing, Jon Snow. And it keeps the heart going. It's a magical thing.
We really don't know anything. That's true.
Yeah.
It reminds me when the first day I met you, MISCHO, we went out, and in LA, especially in the music industry, you have a lot of meetings with people that you're not necessarily, you don't
ever gonna
remember.
see again.
Work together. Yeah. Well, I got your number. I'm gonna hit you up. Cool. And we had a meeting that really could have easily turned into one of those things.
Yeah.
We like met at was it Beverly Hills Hotel, and no, Sunset Tower, and we sat and had a little brunch. And it was fun. We had a good time. But just like I was like, oh, cool. It's nice to meet this person. We'll see if anything comes of we'll work together or not. But then we ran into each other at the airport. We shared the same terminal. And you were like, dude. I was like, whoa, that's very interesting. And you even said something then, and you were like, see, it's not that weird. It was meant to be like this. Like I'm from the future, basically. I'm like, this is my dude right here. Okay. And we are, almost 2 years later.
Yeah, and we've stayed in touch, kept working together, work on a bunch of different things, and yeah, that was almost like the signal, right? I call it like That's the way I roll. I call it the signal from the universe that says, yeah, keep going. Because in that micro interaction we had, there was a spice, there was something much different than in the meeting, because the meeting is, one of those run-of-the-mill meetings. Maybe I'll see you, maybe I won't. Yeah, all good. But that I love that. And I always try to lean into those gifts. Because look, I'm a primitive species, so I see it as magic. I see it as a hint from the 5D cloud above us. But I don't care. I roll with it, and it's been good for me. And so fuck it. But yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that up, because that's when you had long hair.
I know, back when. Oh boy, those days. I think I might let it. See, now I drive I drive a really fun convertible, and I can't have long hair anymore because it'll start whipping you in the eyes. It's no good. No bueno.
Your Corvette is absolutely unbelievable. So you have, is it flat black?
Matte black. This goes out to the ladies listening. So I got a really nice Corvette. It seats 2 people. I'm gonna be one of those people, and I have room. I'm a single man.
Tell me more.
I live in Los Angeles.
Could I be one of those people?
You can check me out on Bumble. You can check me out on MySpace.
You look really cute.
Look it up. I was thinking, how sweet would it be if somebody rented a billboard for their Bumble or Tinder account, or just like for their phone number? Like, does this look good? Call me here. I've been getting way into billboards lately, just in general.
Right.
Let's not follow this stupid.
No. I like it. Well, first of all, your Corvette, it really is epic. But let's talk about this billboard thing, because I love talking about marketing and branding. So let's talk. Let's go on this thought roller coaster.
In music marketing, Uncle Salsa and I love it. It's great. It's really, you learn so much. You make mistakes, you learn from them. The industry keeps changing, but I've been way into just like physical outdoor marketing lately, and just billboards. There's something about, and like it seems like they're with COVID and everything, they're cheaper than ever. And just like if I see an ad on the internet, I mean, to me it's just absolute trash. But if I still find myself checking out, and I know that like somewhere in the back of my brain, I know it's just as much trash, but I oftentimes, if I see something that's cool, and like I'm driving through Silver Lake and it's some cool looking band, I'm like, what's this? And I'll actually go on my phone. It's like, that's a really good thing. Like the fact that like I'm pretty much a regular dude, so it's the fact that I'm looking at a billboard and going, yeah, what is that? What is that? Looks interesting. We would never do that on computers. Like if you just saw a thing, oh yeah, maybe you would click on it. But I think there's a higher retention rate, and we like look at physical outdoor ads in a weird way that we don't look at digital stuff.
I like that you said that, because it's rare, right? It's almost like we're desensitized to ads, so we're not compelled to like look at it or stop. But when you're out in nature, out in the real world, because the phone really is V1 of the virtual world, right? We're always in it. Like soon we'll just be inhabiting it. But when we go outside in the fresh air and then we see that billboard of like Uncle Salsa and the Pelican Boy, give us a call. Maybe I'd call, were there any specific ads or something that you have in mind that you'd like to try?
It just said, we're here for you. And then the phone number.
We're holding hands. That'd be great.
Why not?
People would call that number.
It just says, we're here for you, and that's it. And it just has a phone number, and it's your telephone that already rings off the hook.
Uncle Salsa.
Did you laugh because you already had this conversation before?
First time. Okay. So we're here from you, and you'll be wearing your Uncle Salsa gear with the Tombolo. I need my own Tombolo signature line. I'll say this. I got into terry cloth not too long ago. If you've ever seen the movie Goldfinger?
Yes.
Sean Connery they're at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami, Florida, playing cards, and he comes out in this blue terry cloth onesie, and I just wanted to find that same thing. Thankfully, I could not find it. There's this company called Tombolo in Brooklyn. They do these goofy terry cloth shirts, and they're great. It's like wearing a towel. It's very very, very loose, very breezy. I hope I get a discount code, Tombolo. If this,
So Tombolo, that's the dream, right? That's your dream sponsor?
well, no, I mean, sure, one of 100 probably. There's so many great brands you can align yourself with. One of mine just happens to be Terry Cloth Company.
Well, I need to see that. You need to get one. I hope that this podcast helps you get sponsored, because I think that Tombolo would be a wonderful addition to the ever-growing yacht rock market and the look of the Goldfinger blue outfit. And I think the world needs it.
Absolutely. I like the way you look in your Tombolo. I think
you very
that's
much.
the whole thing. You have to find, it's just like the way you talk or write songs. You got to find that thing that expresses your essence.
For me, it's lobsters with rockets that are shooting out of them as they fly into space.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
Wearing it
that.
today. I wear a lot of Hawaiian shirts, but now they're becoming tired. And when my friend Christina, I was, out in LA as this newfound single man, and I was like, and she goes, first of all, she like kind of looking, just giving me the one over with me wearing my Hawaiian shirts and like kind of like a Miami Vice white jacket. She goes, women, they don't want to fuck a clown. And I said, ooh, that's not good. Oh man. So I don't know. There's something very fun about re-embracing been wearing I got a big leather duster, kind of look like Morpheus. Get out of the black Corvette with that.
Holy shit, that's freaky. Okay, but this lady who said that, do you take that opinion, because you're a first mover, you're an artist. You're a different vibe. You're not your run of the mill Instagram poster. You're a different kind of dude.
Well, thank you. Nick.
And I know a clown who fucked a lot, and his name was Gene Simmons.
I thought you were gonna say Bozo.
Well, Bozo fucked second, but like pretty much the Kiss look, they were like space clowns or something, and they fuck like crazy. So I don't know, man. I think you do you, because I think your vibe is great, and I think that when you lean into that outfit and that you like, that potentially this lady saw as a clown, it's a big sign. And it's very clear, and it says either you fucking want this or you hate it. There's no figuring out. It's like a girl who likes you for what you're wearing, like right there like that. She's crossed the chasm. She gets it, And that's just me.
I just want to tell the story. I'm still wearing my shrimp outfits. Don't worry.
Oh, I know you were.
But I just thought it was funny that somebody looked at me and said, you know what? Women don't want to fuck no clowns.
Right.
Okay? They don't want to fuck a clown. And I thought that was funny.
It is funny.
Okay.
It's funny, but I think you're a fucking sexy clown, all right?
You're one of those hot clowns.
Do you guys want me to leave?
We didn't get started with you there, Johnny Cash.
Tell me more. I've been going by Roy Orbison these days.
Okay. Oh, yes, that is very fitting.
Ooh! Well, his
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty, and you really wail on this. Would you call it an album or the EP?
somewhere in between. It's definitely an album, though. I've always been a big fan of short albums with like long songs.
Yeah, it's a vibe. But you really do wail, and there's this really really crazy psychotic energy, like almost. And I say this in the best way, like a guy who's doing karaoke and he's taking it fucking seriously, and he's like screaming his fucking head off, and he's into it, and he wants you to be into it too, and it's intense, and it's fucking killer.
A few years ago, we worked on some music that wasn't this project, and I was singing the vocal, and I yelled in a certain part of the song, and this guy was like, "Oh, that sounds great. You should do more of that." And so that's developing some of that on this. And I was like, "Oh, really? Do people want to hear you scream?" But then as you practice it, yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, all of those yells, they're great. It's fun.
I love that. I love listening to people singing, because that's one thing. If we're looping that back into what we were talking about with like fashion, just being yourself. Sometimes I find that out of all things, singing voices are, it's like people are like, no, just be yourself, sing. But it's like a lot of times when people sing, they're really not being, they don't know how to really use their own voice. Does that make sense? Like a lot of times when I hear singers, especially probably male singers, they're more likely to kind of have these like affectations that's like, I don't know, like what, I don't think that is working for you. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of times it's like they don't trust like what just like an honest breath would sound like or something like, so when he screamed, I was like, that's what people are going to sign up for. People are going to really, really like that. And it's
wild.
But it's almost the opposite of what we were talking about before. Just do what you like, because people will find you that like your voice. So just sing like however you want to sing.
Yeah. So
like,
you sound different, right? Like you sound like you guys both sound like yourselves. I know exactly who's singing when, and it's very clear. And I know that it's an extension of your speaking voice and your natural charisma. Like I hear it, and I love it, and it's fucking wild.
What about your own journey through your voice, your singing voice?
So my journey, really, my singing's very basic. It's I just try to sing as high as I can, and whatever the fuck comes out, right? So I talk low in the verses, and I sing high in the choruses, and whatever comes out, I don't really overthink it. I don't think I ever really think about what I'm singing, and I think that's why I consistently sound the way I do. But I don't know, from an outside perspective, because I'm so used to my voice that I feel like it's pretty much the way I talk, but in a singing way.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's true. I just remember recording with you and you started singing low, and I was like, yeah, what's up with that? That's good. Because that's the thing. You usually singing, and because something happens when you're playing, and then you take it up a key, and then all of a sudden it's brighter, it's a little bit louder, you're projecting a little bit more. So, oh yeah, do that. But I don't know. Once in a while, especially with a man's voice, something really really nice about a low register. And there's something a little, I don't want to keep saying soy boy. This is going to be like I'm going to call this a soy boy podcast.
There's nothing wrong with soy boys.
Sometimes when it's like, yeah, but like, I don't know, like there's a lot of times guys try to sing too high, and it doesn't have, it's like there's a reason that, people wanted to have sex with like Jim Morrison and not like, I don't know, like Geddy Lee. I'm sure Geddy Lee got a lot of pussy, but Geddy Lee probably was having sex with women that worked at the drum store, like that sold Zildjian cymbals, or like, I'm just, get what I'm saying.
I totally feel you.
Robust.
Yeah, it's lower chakra energy, and actually, you pushed me a lot to. Actually, you pushed me in the high register, and you pushed me in the low register, because I was used to singing in the middle and like staying like that throughout. But you gave me, well, you really gave me no choice, and I really like that about you. That working with you as a producer, you didn't let me dominate the room in every scenario, which is very nice, because that friction creates good stuff. And
yeah. I remember very specifically. No, but that's true, because with you a lot, I was like, you're going to sing, like pick the right key to where you can sing the verse an octave low and then the chorus is above. Like, because it was specifically a song that's unreleased, but when it's released, it's going to be
huge.
But like that's it. But one of the things was, the verse, melody, and chorus were very similar. Like they were very, very similar. Not identical, but it was more or less the same kind of cadence and the same thing. And so to me, it was like, well, the verse has to be an octave lower, and then the chorus you sing up pretty high. And then I remember you came into the studio that day, and you're like, you know what? I was playing. I think I'm just going to take it back down and sing the whole thing as one octave. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? I was like, absolutely not. Like that. Then there's no song. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and that was the whole song. And what it taught me, because it was at that time that I started rehearsing with the band, with the boys, and it just forced me to think like that and try to sing like that and learn to learn, because it's easier for me to sing higher than it is lower. And it just taught me to, I went and watched some YouTube videos. I tried to figure out how to control it better. And now everything that I'm doing, like there's this new song I'm working on that I'll send you guys. And I'm singing super fucking low in the verses and not even that high in the chorus, but it creates a very sexy vibe, I think. Oh. And it's fucking cool. So thank you, Pelican, for steering me in the right direction.
You're very, very welcome, baby. New skills, man. New skills that's what's up. That's one thing I've always appreciated about you is you have like you want to keep going, you want to keep learning. You're not afraid of mistakes. That's what I love. People that are not afraid of mistakes, because that's your biggest blessing in this life is mistakes. You're not going to learn anything cool if you don't like blow it very, very embarrassingly in front of lots of people.
No failure, only feedback. It's kind of how I like that.
Yeah, exactly. There's no growth with no stimulus. And when you're interacting with people, like even like this, right? We're focused. It's 2-on-1, but it's pretty much like we're 1-on-1. And every time it's someone's turn to speak, it's like you want to bring it, right? So it's like a challenge. You got to be present. You got to be here. And that's what I really like about this is that, we're thinking about the recording. There can't be dead space. We got to say something interesting. So it's like a dance that we're doing that I really enjoy. And that's what it's like in the studio. You want to put your best foot in there.
If you listen deeply to what people are saying, conversation is not that hard. There's always something interesting in what somebody has to say, even when you think that the person may not be interesting. I think the three of us are interesting. I hope those of you listening think we're interesting.
I think they absolutely will.
There's no denying that this will be the newest podcast that you have.
No denying it. There's absolutely no denying it.
No, there's no podcast of yours that is any newer than this one. It's the most modern podcast. This is actually the most modern podcast in the world. It might be tied for first place, but right now, as I'm saying, we are on the precipice of time, people.
Yeah, only the three of us have heard this.
We're on the cusp. It's so fresh, we haven't even heard all of it yet. That's how fucking fresh it is.
Ooh, I love that. I love those little bits. Ooh, I like that. We haven't even found the end. Brady told me something the other day about like organizing that really blew my mind, like the 2-minute rule.
Tell me about it. Okay, wait. So what is the 2-minute rule?
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked.
Why don't you explain it? I was really into this, and it's actually really made my life. Wow. I'm surprised I wasn't doing it decades ago.
So if you have a thought bubbles up from wherever it does, you decide in a very simple way, can I do this in 2 minutes or less? If the answer to the question is yes, just do it. Because you have the thought, you did the action, and then it's gone. Because otherwise, you have the thought, you go, I'll do that later. And then you have the thought again, I'll do it later. And you keep having this, and you're wasting time. But if it takes longer than 2 minutes, just schedule it. Put it in your calendar. Whoop, put it somewhere else. And then the thought's gone, and you can keep freeing your mind to create or to complete action. But you get into this habit, like clearing a Tetris board, where you're just executing. You realize, a lot of this stuff doesn't take as long as I think. It's in your life, things you're like, that would have taken an hour. All of a sudden you realize it only takes 15 minutes, and you begin to get a different measure of time. And you're giving yourself all these little dopamine hits too. Thought, did the thing, another thought. And you just start to build and grow in a real fast way. That's the 2-minute rule. I don't know if that's an original or.
Well, it really works. It really works for like day-to-day kind of just admin stuff. Like we lead such busy lives, such complicated lives.
Yeah.
And then there's something when it comes down to, shoot, man, at the lowest level, like your own personal hygiene, cleanliness, your organization, like the way that your office is or your room or all that kind of stuff. And you're like, I needed to fix that. Or like the idea is really, if you don't do it right now in these 2 minutes, like you're going to keep looking at that. It's going to take 2 hours away from your life because you'll keep looking over at it. And you'll be like, sure. Do I want to, like little things. Like I remember I had a lava lamp where the light bulb wasn't in it for like 3 years. That's the most stoner thing I've ever said, by the way. But like, you know what I mean? Like I should have just changed. Like this is when I was a kid, but like people were like, oh dude, try to turn on the lava lamp while we get high. But it's like, no, there's no light in it because I haven't gone downstairs where all the light bulbs are and screwed it in. And so under the 2-minute rule, I mean, it's a silly example, but
It's a great example.
It's an amazing example.
Really good examples of this. Like trying to think of one that happened. I mean, I've been kind of living like that for the last several weeks. And if I just see something I know has to get done, I just do it instantly. And it's really, it's a nice little rule, because if it is going to take 20 minutes, then don't worry. Don't do it now. Just do it. Think about a time, or you don't even have to schedule it. But if it's something that like takes just 2 minutes or less, oh yeah, I was supposed to fire out. I remember that person wanted me to email them. You know what I mean? Like, no, you'd
fire it off.
Right.
I need to write a thank you note. How long does it take to write a thank you note? Think about how long 2 minutes is. You can listen to a song in 2 minutes. Get it out, write it, envelope, stick it. Or like the lava lamp example. Let's say you didn't have light bulbs. Okay. I don't have light bulbs. I'll do later. No, go to Amazon on your phone and buy 20 light bulbs. And now your lava lamp will be lit up for 10 years or whatever, or however long they last. It's all of success in life are all these little healthy habits that you have to do every single day. People think there's some magic bullet, some aim it at the thing and bam, you're a celebrity. But if that's your goal, whatever your goal is, it's really all these tiny little things every day, and you just got to do them every day. If there's a book of Beatles gear we have upstairs, it's 500 pages. If you think, 500 pages, I just read a page a day. Sometimes I'm so interested, I'll read 10 pages. And I crush stuff, and I don't even think about it. But you have to do it every day. You have to go, I see the book, instead of being like, I'll read a page. Like, it's so easy, man. And you do a lot of that stuff too. I know you've talked about a lot of your habits and things you've used to build various empires of yours.
Well, I really love that 2-minute rule, because it makes so much sense, because a 2-minute thing will drag on you. It'll weigh on your shoulders. If you keep looking at it and it keeps staring at you, it's just, and there's multiple 2-minute things. And if you keep staring at them, that's just hours and hours of weight on your shoulders. And like you're saying, you see it. If you could do it 2 minutes or less, just fucking do it. And then you do get that dopamine hit, that feel of success. And then you want to do it again. And if you can't do it, you schedule it. You still got that dopamine hit. You feel like a fucking champ.
You're in the future guy's going to handle it. I can't do it now. Your life's a lot better that way with that rule.
It clears the space. It's cleaning the desktop of your mind, right? I like that, Brady. I mean, Uncle Salsa.
Really good.
Same guy.
It saved my life. 2 minutes. It's been 2 months since I've made love to my wife. Well,
that's 2 minutes.
Come here, you.
Yeah, but I love that, and the root of it too is that it's compounding interest, like the books or whatever you want to work on or whatever you want to do. You do it, and it keeps compounding, right? So like back to like the artist, and you want to be compounding your brand or your impact or your reach or whatever the hell it is. But like you said, no magic bullet. There's not going to be some magic record deal that's going to just make it all happen. It's that a little bit every day, consistently moving forward.
You're saying at the beginning, compound. How did you phrase it?
It's compound interest.
Compound interest, sure.
Yeah, like this is compounding interest. People will see this. People will discover the beautiful personalities that are Uncle Salsa and the Pelican Boy. I say this almost in every podcast now, is I got this space, and the idea was just to shoot some like poppy style videos where I say some weird future predictions in my spacesuit. And so I committed to getting this place. I started working with my film friend Steven again. And we started getting this going. But what it led to really is showing me that the short form content wasn't really all that fun or scalable. And it led me to being comfortable with outsourcing editing videos, which was being done. And then the barriers to entry of starting this podcast were very low, because I had my guy who knew the film stuff. He knew the lighting. We knew how to get. I couldn't have done any of this on my own, but the fact that I started working on him in this place led it here. And now I'm starting this podcast. I'm talking to you guys. I have 2 scheduled every week for the next 2 months. And now I'm going to reach out to people. And so this thing now is in autopilot, because I'm not going to let this thing down, because this thing gives me a lot of joy. Talking to you guys through the screen, having fun. What is it going to lead to? Like in terms of expectations, I have no idea. I have strategies of how I'm going to release it. But other than that, I'm just going to keep doing it and hope that the good vibes give me a boost at some point in time. And 2 minutes.
Go up, and it's like you meet people out of nowhere. I did a McCartney podcast a few years ago where we've slowed down, but from that I met a guy, and I'm doing a new podcast with, and get this, man, I was in Burbank working at this time. His office was a block away from mine, but if I hadn't put a podcast out into the world, I would have never met a guy that was in the building across the street. We're very similar guys, similar interests, similar temperaments. Yeah. That, your ship will not come in unless you send one out. You got to send the ship out for one to come back in. And that's what you're going to do. And that's what you're doing right now.
That's what I'm doing. That's what you're doing. You're putting out the music. We're talking. We're spreading vibrations and frequencies, through quantum entanglement. This is being fed into the galaxy.
Very interesting. And you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's I think kind of a signpost of, if you look at just even like Uber and Lyft, it's like, it's what do they call it? The what economy? The what's the word for it? The gig economy. It's like a lot of just freelance stuff. You just have to do it yourself. And it reminds me of all the lessons I learned in rock and roll in the last 10, 15 years, where, you're a band and you go, because my old band had a record deal, and we would call the record label and be like, we were like idiots. It would be like, hi, what's going on this week? What did you guys do for us? We have this song we want to put out. When can we do it? And it's just like, and they were like, shut the fuck up. They just, and they should have, because you need to create your own buzz. You need to be able to, or at least be the executive influence on the team that creates your buzz.
Yeah.
It all comes from you. And I do know lots of people, hundreds of people. Actually, I would say the majority of artists I know have a little bit of that left in them, where they go, I just need to find the right manager. Like once I get an agent, everything is going to be better.
No, wrong.
Yeah, but it's like, no, that's actually not true. Like if you can't on your own accord create a little bit of local buzz, or like something that's organically getting you to that next level, then then you getting to that level, that's where you're going to stop.
Especially now when we all have $1,000 computers that have access to all of the information in the world in our pockets. Like, figure it out. You don't know how to do something? Somebody has. Millions of idiots have done the thing that you want to do. And they'll tell you how to do it in a YouTube tutorial or a article, and it's all searchable and very well indexed. Google, they're doing okay.
Right. And the executive part, I think, is just as important, because also people need to know their own limitations and need to know what, where a collaborator would help. So instead of somebody they're making the music videos and they go, well, I want to be the director and the cinematographer. I also want to do the hair and makeup. I want to star in it, of course. And, it's this big sort of room production. That's when a good executive mind can say, like, how do I get somebody to be excited about this project? How do I get somebody to come in and I don't have a big budget, but maybe I can use a little bit of charm. Maybe I can barter somehow, work for them, and I can kind of get what I want. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's the beginning of executive energy. There's really not a huge difference between going like old school, trying to sell like some fur that from an animal that you killed in exchange for like spices. That's basically in a lot of ways, even though you're not controlling another person, but that's executive energy. It's like, I don't have that, but I need that. So I'm willing to kind of give up this resource of mine so I can have like a successful day and I can execute my vision. I think that's also the big difference between a man and a boy. It's like, is a man knows what they want and how to get it.
I totally agree. And it's the CEO / entrepreneurship quality that all the greats that we love all had, right? I think all my favorite artists didn't have necessarily the best voice. They weren't necessarily the best guitar players, but they had this extra ability to be able to piece things together, to make things happen, to build a team, whatever it is. Everyone has it a little different. But if you look at Madonna, if you look at P. Diddy, if you look at Gene Simmons, you look at any of these people who broke out, were they that extraordinary, or was their capacity to have that executive energy and put this all together and build a company, a machine, right? Because one person can't be a company. One person can't be a machine. You can't be doing everything. You can't be doing hair and makeup and producing and mastering and making music videos. You can't fucking do it. So how do you figure out to do what you can with what you got to build that? And that's what I look, it's the entrepreneurial qualities within artists that impresses me.
Learn the lesson. But you have to learn the lesson when you fail. There's a lot of people that just fail and they go, oh, well, we'll do it again. They do the same thing. Hit a brick wall over and over again. Flexibility, self-awareness. A good executive is good self-awareness. Maybe not a great artist. Some great artists don't. But I mean, what's the executive portion of your body? It's your brain. Just using a good executive is somebody who can think things through. Not only in a black and white sense, but then creatively. A lot of people forget creativity is an important thing. You know, Steve, you said P. Diddy and Madonna. Steve Jobs is a guy like that. Not really a computer programmer, not really an expert in many things except for the art of language and sales. One of the master persuaders on the planet, but also an organizer, able to, I'm going to try to get rid of the buttons and I want an elegance to this. And he was in some calligraphy. He sat in on a calligraphy class in college. He didn't even take it. One class, maybe it was one, maybe it was a couple. He's like, oh, this is why these fonts are important. Kanye West is like that. I know Mac's a big fan of Kanye. An organizer, someone that's able to we talk about this a lot. Can taste be taught? And what is the value of taste? I think it's much more valuable. So I know you're a Blink guy.
Yeah.
If guys that aren't great at guitar, although I'd argue they are, those guys had taste, a certain California punk pop sound, good lyrics, image. They gelled together. It all matters. Everything matters. You can't.
Everything matters. And that's why there's so many. Oh, wait, keep going. You have something?
Stuff that's not good right away. You can hear something for 30 seconds or less and go, well, this isn't that great, or see it. And so all of that goes into the alchemy is important.
Absolutely. And so it's, if you hear an artist or someone saying, oh, I know this amazing singer and she's having, a really hard time, or this, this guy, and you have to have more. You have to have a palette of skills in order to make it. And it's not like I've made it, right? But I think I'm on the right track, and whether it's wherever this road takes me, I'm building something. I'm open to where it's going. I don't know where it's going, but it's going. The train is rolling.
That's good.
And
if it's going, that's usually good.
Yeah, it's going in a direction that feels good. It's going in a direction that feels good, and it's about learning how to work with people and doing whatever the fuck you got to do to make it happen, and not just waiting. I think that's the thing. You're not waiting for something to happen. You're just doing things and improving them.
The biggest thing you have to unlearn after you go to school. I've interacted with a lot of interns and people right out of college, and everybody's waiting to be told what to do. And there was this moment when I lived in New York where I was working, and I still had that old brain, that old waiting to be told what to do brain. And something, I got in trouble about something. I forgot to do something, and I realized there is no limit to what life expects out of you. And you just have to, male energy was talking about before, what separates between the men and the boys.
Or women and girls, just adult and children.
Girls.
Well, I think that's what you mean when you guys are saying like the male energy. I think it's not male versus female. It's like male versus the boy. It's your young self versus your adult self, like.
Whereas you visualize something in your head and you can go, okay, well, I can do A, B, and C. I can't do D. How do I do D? Let me figure it out. And then, oh, I can't do it, but my friend can. And that's that organizing. It comes in. It says, yeah, I mean, a lot of people have interacted with, you go, oh, can you do this task? And they try once and fail. And they go, no, it was impossible. I couldn't do it. And I go, okay. And then I start making phone calls, and then here it is. I've done it for you. That's a learned skill, but you have to unlearn. You have to dehypnotize yourself from the read the book, get the facts, take the test. Now you're smart. You were dumb before the test, but you passed the test. So now you're smart. Actually, you're dumber after you pass the test because you've been programmed in a specific way. At least that's how I see it.
Being dumb is also incredible.
I agree.
From somebody who I think I have a lot of really dumb parts of, like, a lot of, maybe half, maybe even 75%.
Oh, that's fucking horseshit. But keep going.
Dumb. But the thing is, I know a lot of really smart people that don't get anything done. Nothing, and they sit around and they go, well, and they justify why something didn't work out, and they're really good at justifying it because they're really smart, and they're really good at putting something out, often rationalizing it. Versus dumb people, you can, and then especially if you loop it into a kind of a dumb artist, which is great, like just a creative person that's just like, I'm just going with it. What I'm so addicted to is when you do stuff for like 6 months, and then you're doing that same thing that you were doing 6 months ago, but then you look back at where you were 6 months ago, and it's like you're on a different mountain. Like, that's like the most intoxicating feeling in the world for me, is that.
Yeah.
Where you go, yeah, I mean, this is the same activity that I've been doing since 6 months ago. But good God, I'm not even in the same stadium anymore. Like, I've traveled so far because I haven't been overthinking anything. I haven't been making silly adjustments that are unnecessary and counterproductive.
Yeah.
I was telling Brady earlier, my thing is, like, also stay out of your own way. Stay out of your own way is like a great, like, little mini mantra. Because so many times, like the problems that you're running into are just, you're creating them for yourself. And a lot of it is overthinking, I think. Especially so many people, obviously a lot of this artist talk is, we're talking like music industry and stuff, because that's one thing that unifies all of us. But, I know a lot of people who, they start something out that's got kind of a little ambitious thing, like something that you're doing right now. It's very ambitious, and I can see that you have committed to this world and you're seeing it through. Versus, I know a lot of artists who are so talented and they try something for like maybe a month or two, and then they go, I'm sick of that. Like, I could also do this. And like, maybe now I'm going to be kind of more goth, and I'm going to kind of like slick back my hair, and I'm going to be like a little bit more like edgy, and I'm going to wear like cool, like leather stuff. And you know what I mean? And then they go, yeah. And then you go, oh no, but like, since you did, now you're starting over, and now you're not getting anywhere. So I think that takes
consistency.
Consistency and staying out of your own way and not overthinking stuff.
Getting out of your own way is the biggest problem. Like these micro pivots before you have like market reaction, it's like, that's why I envy stupid people who are, and a lot of them, there are some who become extremely successful because they have this part of their brain that's missing. Like Brady was saying that we have to unlearn things. They don't have to unlearn anything because they just go. They're just like naturally just moving, right? They're just in flow. They just go, they think of nothing, and they just make things happen. So we have to learn to do that.
Yeah, it's true.
But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. So what's on tap for the Friday night for you boys?
What do you think?
We got to go get all that shrimp, maybe bite a couple of those heads off. I don't know. Got a boat of guitars here, two tree pianos. I don't know, maybe blip, 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 blip. I don't know. Maybe I might go to bed. Okay, the future is unwritten.
Okay, the future is unwritten. And so this is your studio spot. This is where the magic happens. How are you liking the new space?
Very good. It's very good. We have a little compound over here on the east side of town. And I mean, it's a studio space, so you have to like gradually inject it with energy. You have to just like be, with every song that goes by, it gets a little bit stronger. And if you've ever had a studio in the past, you know how powerful that can be to leave. Like my old, like I look at I've had like 3 of my own studios thus far. And like leaving that first one was so difficult because there was like years and years of great vibes, and it starts to become its own entity. Same thing. So like right now it's been, because we've only been in here for like just not even 2 months. So it's still young. It needs to be broken in. It needs like some W's, you know, but like, it's got a great vibe. There's a ton of gear. It's pretty funny. It's like kind of talking about similar things. It's like, when do you have just too much gear? Why do I have to why does Brady always want a new guitar? You know what I mean? Like, it's like we keep collecting these things. Maybe this is going to write that perfect song.
You never know. You absolutely, was that a Rickenbacker that you just got?
Yeah, it's called a 1993 Plus. It's like a thick neck 12 string guitar.
12?
Get an F hole in America. And everybody, I wanted one because we're big of Roger McGuinn of the Byrds, and George Harrison played one. There's a lot of really important guitarists. Tom Petty, obviously, you know,
Yes.
He has that 660 12 that he plays in the front of Damn the Torpedoes. And I just was reading how much everyone's like, oh my God, the sound. And we're like, yeah. And I just felt, we got it. We were playing it the other night. We're both like looking at each other. Like, but no, I think I'm done with guitars for a little bit, at least for this month. What month is it? It's the end of
Yeah, it's
Talk
the end of
to
October.
see how many more I got.
All right, very good. So what's the band setup like when you're performing? Like, is it are you guys guitar and bass?
We haven't really completely ironed that out. Probably for the most part, or a lot of intermixing, interchanging.
Yeah, the record was really just the two of us, and then the key lime guy on drums. That's like the main nucleus. So I kind of tended to do more guitar stuff, and he was more synth and keys.
Well, I'm just not as good of a guitarist as this guy is.
Bass and keys.
But I've been taking lessons. I'd like a stab at a guitar once and again, but once in a Gwyn.
How have your skills transformed since the beginning of those lessons? Because at the beginning of lockdown, you started, right?
A lot better than they were. They're a lot
your
better.
Teacher is.
What's that?
Tell
Oh, my
your
teacher,
teacher is.
Paul Gilbert from the band, formerly of the band Mr. Big. I think they're actually still together. Yeah, he's a very kind man. Like one of the kindest. And he really is the best teacher because there's not a lot of criticism. He's only ever pointing out the good stuff. And then you're like, oh, I did good. I'll do that again and again and again. And if there are really bad things, he's like, you know, like my vibrato, I was using the tip of my finger instead of the side. But he like made a joke out of it. It's you want to show up for that. So it's been good. It's a lot to learn a new instrument, but it's fun. It's fun when you break, like I said, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, if you break it down into little easily achievable wins, I think you can do literally anything you want to do.
Good teaching is, I think, a lot. I used to be a guitar teacher myself, and think like you never want to lie to anybody if you're teaching. Lying is the thing you want to avoid. So you just selectively compliment. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like when I hear somebody shows me like a song by their band and it's really bad, I'll find, I'll be like, man, but that's, what do you think? It's like that snare drum. Oh, amazing. It sounds so good. That's the best sounding snare drum I've ever heard. Thanks, dude. Well, it's all good.
Okay, yeah, I feel you. It's very hard to tell someone that it sucks completely, right? So find something good in it. Find something good. That's the Paul Gilbert way. That's the Pelican way.
This is my point.
I think
they'll be like, this is a really good song. I would just be like, I like this about it. And if they were to be like, what do you think about the songwriting? I'd be like, I think you could probably get a better song.
I think the magic that starts to happen is when you can find somebody who you're okay with them telling you suck. Like I'll show stuff to Max. I'm like, like, oh, okay, this is a bad one. But for me, I'm like, oh, there'll be another one. Toss it away. You write something else. Oh, hey, this part's good. This part's not. Cut that out. Let's work on this. That's where it really, it's positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement doesn't work. You remember when you're screamed at or told off? You don't remember anything else. You just remember, oh, I'm a piece of shit. And then stuff spirals. But if you're like, hey, that little thing you did is good. Then people, they keep showing up because they want the endorphin rush.
Yeah, they want that good vibe thing. They want to see what they did well. It feels good.
Is this okay? Yeah, it's great. Woohoo! That's what everybody wants to hear.
Especially in music where it's so weird, your ego's attached to it. There's all this weird insecurity. There's rivalries and there's jealousy and all that kind of stuff. Like Mick, have you ever been in a toxic band situation?
I have not, actually. But I guess I've been lucky. I've only been in one band before. But I guess you have a story to tell me.
Oh, no, I'm just like, because I've been, I mean, not everyone was, but, there's always, I don't know.
I've been in very toxic work environments.
Yeah.
And where it's so heavy and people, when you're walking by them, it's just bone chilling because like it just sucks and it's gone too far and no one's addressed anything for far too long. And it just weighs on you. And it's that stink feeling and everyone hates everybody. We call it frothy when you're frothy.
Frothy.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's like, when you're just feeling frothy in the morning and it's like, you don't hate anyone that you see in the morning. You just, you don't want to get too deep into what they're up to or what you did yesterday. You just kind of want to do your thing and go to your desk and not fucking talk to anybody.
That is the worst when you're like focused on something and somebody wants to tell you something inconsequential. Oh, really? You did? Well, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's especially when, it's bad is even with the face-to-face stuff, it's still bad because I find that a lot of problems that I see my friends in my immediate circle get into, it's all based on reading texts and emails and trying to decipher tones. And then people saying like, well, what the fuck? Did you see that fucking text he sent me? What the fuck was that? It's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know how he meant it, or like, oh my God, just the most passive aggressive email. And that's true though. Like a lot of times people, they don't have a lot of self-awareness. So they will, they have a little bit of anger and then they start typing the email and then they're like, fuck it. They fucking send it into the fucking, into fifth gear. And then they're like, yeah, and they do kind of spice it up a little bit. And then people go, what the fuck is this? But there's no eye to eye contact. There's no vocal inflection. Yeah. There's nothing like that. And I think a lot of those problems, I'm surrounded, like so much of my day is that, like working with artists and friends and people are trying to collaborate with a videographer and then they're like, well, what the fuck did this person say? Like they said this, look at this text. And it's like, why don't you just get on the phone and hammer this out?
Yeah, it's the worst feeling. It's the worst vibe. But calling and talking on the phone is the best. But yeah, if you lack self-awareness, or even on the receiving end, if you're getting overly fucked up about something, you're lacking self-awareness too, because you can't see how bent up you're getting about this thing.
Yeah, it's true. You're right.
And I got rid of all the friends who brought me those problems, so it's just the way it rolls. So I have three friends.
That's good. Well, I hope you think I'm one of your friends.
Yes, well, this is the three of us.
Oh, good. Okay, you.
Yeah, I'm included in here. All right, gentlemen. So we, I think we're hitting a point where I think we're going to end on a high note, and I would love for you to tell the people where they can find you.
You can find us on Instagram at Uncle Salsa Pelican Boy. You can find us on Twitter. It's Salsa Pelican, or maybe it's Pelican Salsa. You could try one of those out. We do not have, we have a Facebook page, but don't go there. Not interested in any of that. Well, yeah, we're on all DSPs, Spotify, all that. And you know what? I'm actually gonna do the billboard thing on audio. Uncle Salsa Pelican Boy at gmail.com. Positive vibes only, though. You got a demo, you got a thought, you got something you want to build and grow. I want to hear from you. If you are trying to take, that's for the birds. So yeah, come grow, come build with us. We're here every day, 7 days a week.
Amazing. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
We're here for you,
Yeah. Uncle Salsa and the Pelican Boy are here for you. Tropical Purgatory is out now.
Feel good about it.
On the right side of the screen, we have Uncle Salsa. On the left, we got the Pelican Boy. And my name is MISCHO. I'm a fellow time traveler. This has been a Fifth Dimension podcast, and I appreciate you all hanging out with us on this wonderful Friday night. Gentlemen, a pleasure to see you.
A lot of fun.
Godspeed.
This was absolutely beautiful. Here, stay on for a sec, after this thing. That's how we'll do it. All right, boys.